Bitches and faggots, bitch faggots, welcome. My name is Jason Van Jason, and you are listening to Bitch Faggot Radio, the show where I call you a bitch faggot and you deal with it. So, before we get into things, you can find me on Twitter at Jason Van Jason. You can find my Amazon Author Central page in the description of this video. So if you're listening to this, just go to the YouTube channel, look in the description. You can find a link to my Amazon Author Central page, and there you can find a list of products of mine, literary products that you can buy for 99 cents. I publish chapters instead of books because I like to call myself an author, but in the laziest way possible. Because I'm a piece of shit human being, and, that's just what it is. So, yeah. And I hope that if you put a lot of effort into maintaining the mantle of author, I really hope the fact that I've never published a book before, and I've only published chapters like a lazy cunt, I hope that just bothers you to a massive extent. I really hope it does. I hope the fact that I don't use grammar properly, I don't use any of the writing rules properly, even though I know most of them. I just choose not to use them because I don't fucking care. I have no respect for the craft at all. And yet I still call myself an author. And the reason I do that is to piss people who are actual authors off. And the reason I want to piss them off is because I'm a piece of shit human being, like I said. So yeah, you can go to my Amazon Author Central. If you would like me to address your mail directly on the show, you can send said mail to jvjradio@protonmail.com. Episode 16, this is 17, episode 17, but episode 16, I had mentioned we were going to be talking about delayed and instant gratification and gratification in general, and we're going to be going pretty deep today. And if you have a general idea of what gratification is, which most of us do, then that's great, and you'll be able to follow this pretty closely. But the first part of this is kind of going to be dedicated to the people that maybe aren't as familiar with gratification. Now, as always, I'm going to kind of break this down into gratification based on how we used to use it, and then how gratification is basically used today. So when we were kind of not on the bottom of the food chain, but when we were rising up in the ranks of the food chain, so to speak, we had things that we had to do to survive, our basic needs. And we all know what those basic needs are. And the thing we have to understand is that those needs were, at the time, quite hard to meet. And so our brain had to come up with a way to get us to want to do those functions of survival, such as eating, drinking, having shelter, all that shit. And the way that our brain got us to follow those functions of survival was through gratification. Whenever we did something associated with survival, such as eating, our brain gratified us. It said, thank you. And it said, in our brain, said, okay, if you do that again, I'm gonna gratify you again. And so gratification became something that we seeked. And so really, survival was for us back then was really just the chase of gratification. And through that gratification, we found survival. So, we think about survival as, survival. But in reality, survival is really gratification. And today, that's not as much the case because we don't have to work as hard for that gratification. Today, survival is really handed to us on a silver plate, whereas before we had to work for our survival and work for our gratification. Today, that's not really the case. And so today, we define gratification by two basic concepts. Those basic concepts are instant gratification and delayed gratification. Instant gratification is the thought process of seeking gratification right now, which is basically what our brain wants us to do. Instant gratification in our brain, not in reality, but in our brain, is associated with survival because we're looking for that gratification because that's all we've ever done to survive. And so when we get that gratification, that's basically our brain telling us, hey, you're surviving, good job, keep it up. When in reality, we might not be. Example is doing drugs. If I'm doing drugs, my brain's gratifying me, saying, thank you for doing drugs. But my brain is also, because I'm being gratified, I think that's a function of survival because I'm being gratified. And so rather than now chasing survival, I'm going to chase the easiest way I can attain gratification, which is through drugs or through food or... There are many ways that we can achieve that gratification today. And because that gratification and our work to get it has become easier, its impact on us has become less severe. Now we don't really need gratification to survive because we're intelligent enough to understand the things we need to do devoid of gratification. I understand that I need to survive and I don't need gratification to survive because I'm intelligent enough to do the things I need to do to survive. And so gratification is really this archaic biological system that is locked in our brains and something that we have to deal with. And instant gratification is the chasing of that. Delayed gratification is the idea of, okay, I don't need to be gratified for me to do work. I can continue to do work and not be gratified for it. For example, studying for a test. If I can study for a test for a long period of time, a couple hours at a time I can study for, I have a good handle on my delayed gratification or my gratification in general. I have a thorough understanding that I don't need to be gratified to do this thing, and this thing is going to help me survive. I know that, and I don't need to be gratified to know that. That's basically what delayed gratification is. And a great example of delayed gratification is this test that's done with children where a person will walk up to a child and say, hey, I can either give you this marshmallow right now, or you can wait 10 minutes and I'll give you 2 marshmallows. And so the individual understands that, yes, I could have a marshmallow right now, but if I wait 10 minutes, I could have 2 marshmallows. And so if the person is thinking intelligently, they're gonna say, well, I could double my reward by just waiting 10 minutes, right? But for some people, and based on the lives they lead, they want to be gratified right now. And so they take the marshmallow rather than waiting. We live in a society today where we take the marshmallow. We don't wait 10 minutes for the second marshmallow. Simply the fucking idea today in our society of waiting 10 minutes for something extra is fucking ridiculous. That's not going to happen. Our society is based on a go, I want it right now, go type scheme. An example of that is fast food. Fast food is a function of instant gratification, 100%. We are seeking that gratification, and the fast food outlets, they're well aware that every time we buy something from them and eat it, we're being gratified. And so when we are seeking instant gratification, the rewards associated with delayed gratification become dulled. We no longer want to chase those things. Even though the rewards may be greater, the fact of the matter is that we're not getting that reward right now, and we're not getting that gratification right now. And ultimately, we need delayed or instant, we eventually do need gratification. It's just the time associated with how long we can go without it. And usually, intelligent people are associated with delayed gratification. And the reason is that they can amass more things because they can be gratified less. because they're not dedicating resources of theirs towards finding instant gratification, whereas people rooted in instant gratification are. A great example of instant gratification, like I said, drugs. Drugs is a great example. Doing drugs are a great example of instant gratification, where this archaic biological system that we have, it is really hinging on gratification. And so when we're gratified, our brain is telling us, hey, you're surviving, right on. So I might be smoking drugs, which is not associated with survival at all, has nothing to do with survival, and yet my brain is gratifying me all the same. And so really, when we talk about addiction, we're talking about gratification. And a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people think addiction is like this psychological disorder or something. Addiction has to do with gratification. And so gratification is part of our nature. We've used gratification to essentially get to where we are today. And we don't understand. Well, we do understand, but we feel good by the fact that we can just be instantly gratified, and we understand that we don't need gratification to survive today to an extent. We know the things we need to do. We just have these good feelings associated with gratification, and we chase those good feelings. And so gratification really doesn't have a whole lot to do with survival today. Intelligence has to do with survival today. We all know what we need to do to survive. And there's gratification isn't attached to most of those things. And and so instant gratification today is very, very, very pervasive. A great example is screen time. The amount of screen time I have today is associated with gratification. When I'm playing a game or something, I'm being gratified. And I have to understand that if I'm an addict, I'm not doing anything to earn that gratification. I'm just getting gratification. And so essentially I'm just going in circles. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not making progress in my life, but rather I'm just chasing gratification because that's all my brain knows how to do, because that's all it's ever done. And that's an important fact to note. So yeah, addiction and gratification are one and the same thing. Survival and gratification were one and the same thing. They're not really anymore, because as I said, survival is more based in intelligence today than it is gratification. But back in the day when we were rising the ranks of the food chain, gratification was a huge function of our survival. Gratification was the defining function of our survival. Gratification is the defining function of survival for every animal on this planet. Period. Without gratification, we are lost. Without gratification, we don't understand what we need to do to survive, because our brain isn't kind of directing us with gratification. And so that has been something that has been ingrained into our nature for a long time, and for good reason, to help us survive. Survival is the utmost important. There's nothing greater than survival in this life. And and so, as I said, survival and gratification today are not really linked. Survival is something that we know how to do without gratification. And so when gratification becomes introduced outside of survival, that actually impacts our ability to survive, because we're no longer chasing survival, we're chasing gratification, because again, that's all we've ever done. That's just following our basic instincts. That's following our nature. Our nature is not to survive. Our nature is to find gratification. And in that, we have to understand that that's not really a true statement. Our nature really is to survive, but that function of survival has been through gratification for most of our existence, our race's existence, not ours. Our existence today has been defined by our lives, and rarely is it defined by survival. It's defined by, our wants and our what we associate with a good time. We're always looking to be happy, but no one knows how to be happy, because we have so many opportunities to be happy that we have no benchmark with unhappiness to say, well, I was unhappy before, but now I'm in a better place, so now I'm happy, And so we have these people who are not addicted to drugs, not addicted to anything other than instant gratification. They're addicted to being gratified. They're constantly seeking ways to be gratified, and drugs are just a great way to be gratified. They're a fantastic way to be gratified. I was a drug addict for a long time. The way I say it is, I am an addict. I just don't use drugs. Because when I understand I'm an addict, that's saying my brain it kind of has a preconception of an affinity for instant gratification over delayed gratification. Meaning, I like coffee, I like drinking coffee, I like fast food, I like cigarettes, I like everything associated with instant gratification. Because I like gratification. We all like gratification, some of us more than others though. And some of us can modulate that gratification and reason it out. And some of us can't. I'm one of those people that has a hard time doing that. Or did, until I fully understood and was able to rationalize why I was wanting to be gratified, and that's because my brain thought that I was surviving through my gratification. And that was my nature, to seek gratification on the grounds of survival. I believe I'm surviving by smoking this joint of whatever. My brain is going to tell me that I'm surviving, and I know that. And the simple fact of the matter is that through my intelligence, I can deduct that even though my brain is gratifying me, I have enough intelligence to know this action is not associated with survival. And even if I know that, the simple fact of the matter is that I still enjoy being gratified. Gratification is good. I love gratification. Another form of gratification is sex. Sex is the ultimate gratification. We all love sex. So sex sells more than anything. And no, sex doesn't sell more than anything. We just think it does. What really sells more than anything is gratification. But all these things are just or just a medium to attain gratification, such as sex, drugs, anything really in our society. And so we're constantly chasing that gratification. I chased gratification for a long fucking time. I was a drug addict for a long time because I thought being a drug addict was surviving. Well, I didn't think that. My brain was swaying me to think that, but I had enough intelligence to know I wasn't. I just didn't care because I like being gratified, right? And so it's kind of a strange thing where we understand that this gratification that we're attaining right now, it's not helping us survive, but we just enjoy being gratified because it's in our nature. And so it's kind of a double-edged genetic sword that we're having to deal with right now. It's a big factor in this idea of our society moving forward, and we haven't quite caught up biologically or socially. That's me drinking coffee. This is me lighting a cigarette. Why? Because I have an addictive personality. My personality, my brain is associated with instant gratification, or gratification in general. And I want it now. I don't want it later. I want it now. And that's how most of our society is today, is that instant gratification. And we have so many opportunities to attain gratification today that it really cheapens our gratification, except in the heaviest forms, such as sex, drugs, all that shit. We all know the heavy forms of gratification. And we know those things because they're desirable. Unfortunately, drugs are desirable. That's why you shouldn't do them. Because they're really fucking good. And the reason they're good is gratification. And so this gratification puts us in a place where we have to question our nature. And that's not something we're used to. You know, if we had the ability to question our nature when gratification was attached to survival, that would have been a really bad thing. And the people who questioned that gratification associated with that survival died. They fucking died. Like, they didn't survive. And so the people who did survive, they carried on. Right? Their genetics carried on. And the people that didn't. And so we believe that when we're seeking that gratification, we're pushing forward our genetic, our genetics. We're pushing forward our legacy. When in reality, we're not. When in reality, we're doing the exact opposite of that by for the most part, chasing instant gratification. Now, we have an epidemic today of instant gratification in our society. It's everywhere. Instant gratification is everywhere. And it's desirable, and people who sell instant gratification know it's desirable, and they use that gratification to sell their products, such as fast food. They're preying on your instincts, and they're preying on your nature. It's kind of crazy. And if we just are in a system where those things are given to us, if our survival is given to us, it's funny because we're still chasing that gratification, but it's no longer associated with survival. It's just associated with gratification now. It's empty now. It's functionless now. Whereas before it had a vital function in our lives. Today, it doesn't. But we haven't caught up to that yet. Our minds haven't erased gratification yet. Gratification is still very much alive. We're still seeking it. And we're seeking that functionless gratification through many different mediums. Through a ton of them. So many that it's almost inconceivable today how many outlets of gratification we have. And it's fucking crazy. And that gratification, that chasing of gratification today really defines our lives because it defined our survival before. So people say, well, is that fun? People associate gratification with fun. You know, if I'm out playing sports with someone, if I'm active, that's my brain kind of giving me a push of gratification because that's associated with hunting, right? When I'm active, I'm hunting. And I'm not just hunting for food, I'm hunting for a mate too. I'm hunting for, women. As a man, I'm hunting for some pussy. The reason I'm hunting for some pussy is because I'm hunting for that gratification. Hoorah! And that's one of the vestiges of gratification that still has purpose. Is sex. You know, if sex wasn't, if we weren't gratified by sex today, we probably wouldn't be having it. The reason sex feels good is so that we have it, right? Because if sex didn't feel good, it would just be this awkward fucking thing where it's like, oh fuck, like what is this? We wouldn't do it. But the reason we do it is because we're chasing that high, we're chasing that good feeling. And so, as I said, if we're talking about addiction and we're not talking about gratification, we really have to ask ourselves, what the fuck are we talking about? Because we're probably not talking about addiction if we're not talking about gratification. That's just what it is. Sorry, there's some people yelling. Are they yelling at me? No, they're just... Anyways. Oh, a rabbit just ran up to my car. That's weird. Oh, I just scared him. That rabbit actually just scared the shit out of me. But, yeah, this gratification that we're seeking, we think we don't think, but our nature is telling us it's in line with survival, and it's not. And that has kind of put us at an impasse in this life where we need to wait. We're kind of in this purgatory where we're waiting for our brains to realize that, okay, we don't need gratification to survive anymore. We know how to survive now, so now it's about advancing. Now it's about, doing that. And until our brains are kind of devoid of that functionless gratification that we chase, we're kind of be stuck on repeat here. It's kind of a crazy thought. And there's some people that have kind of broken their own cycle, and they break that cycle through delayed gratification. But instant gratification is not a way to break that cycle. We need to slowly phase that gratification out of our lives. And when we phase that gratification out of our lives, we kind of phase like the fun out of our lives, right? Like for example, a great example, like a fantastic example are the feelings associated with sex. If there were no feelings associated with sex that made it feel good and shit, we just wouldn't do it. The reason we do it is that it's defined by that. Sex is defined by that good feeling. As men, we chase that good feeling until we get it. And then once we get it, we at large stop chasing it until we want it again, and then we chase it again. We're very much so hunters, but we like to say like, oh, we're hunters of meat, and we're hunters of pussy, and we're hunters of this and that. We're only hunters of gratification. That's it. It's not a big deal. We glorify the idea of the hunter, but in reality, the hunter is just another person chasing gratification. It's the same shit. What makes the hunter unique is the time spent in between the gratification, the delays in between attaining that gratification. That's what makes the hunter unique, is that he can delay that gratification to achieve a bigger one. And yeah, so delayed gratification is a thing of intelligence. And it puts us in this spot where we really want to delay that gratification in case there's a bigger reward attached to it. We want to put the work in to get a bigger gratification, so to speak. We don't just want a gratification right now. We can go without gratification right now if that means getting a bigger one later. That delayed gratification is an idea that is largely being phased out by our society because we're chasing instant gratification, and we're not putting gratification off like we should be. Gratification is becoming empty. It is basically empty. Gratification is basically an empty concept. And it puts us, like I said, in this limbo of well, where do we go from here? Do we, well, we need to chase delayed gratification, but chasing delayed gratification isn't any fun. Why? Because there's less, or so we perceive that there is less gratification attached to it. And we need to understand that there isn't less gratification attached to delayed gratification. There's more, but there's just time involved in between each of these bigger gratifiers. It's a crazy concept, really, when you think about it. And I know I've reiterated myself like 10 fucking times now. What are we at? We're at 28, almost 30 minutes. So I've been talking about the same fucking thing for 30 minutes. But you have to understand, I haven't. There's just different contexts of gratification. And, yeah. It's fucking crazy. And our nature is now fighting against us. We're now fighting against our nature. That's a crazy idea. We're fighting against our nature now. That's just nuts. And it leaves us in this position where we've never had to fight against our nature before. Fighting against our nature in every part of history other than this one has resulted in death. But fighting against our nature today largely promotes a greater independence from gratification, and in that independence we find growth, and we find progress. You know, all these people that are learning shit and in school and learning these advanced concepts like, you know, how to build a fucking rocket and how to send a rocket into space. Without that delayed gratification, they really wouldn't be able to learn those things. And so even before they had to learn those things, they had to learn and understand the simple concept of delayed gratification. And a lot of people can't do that. A lot of people instead of going to school, they just went and got a job. And the reason they went and got a job is because the gratification is too much for them to fight in their nature. We're associating gratification too much with survival, more than we should be. And we can't put blame on people for following their nature. That's why we call addiction a disorder or a disease or whatever the fuck. We call it that because we can't put blame for following our nature. We can't. Unless we know better, which we do. But even though we know better, we're still chasing that nature. And we need to be more intelligent than that. But it's hard for us to be. And we need time to work that gratification out of our system. We need time to understand that really the only gratification we need today is revolved around sex, and that's it. Because without that, then we're really fucked. But as long as we can retain that gratification in terms of sex and erase it from every part of our life otherwise, except for, you know, maybe doing the things we need to do to survive, then that's what we're going to do. And surviving today is easy in comparison to what it was before. Like I said, we have so many instances of getting that gratification today that we don't even really need to think about how we're going to survive. We just do it. And so we really think we're surviving through our wants, when in reality we're surviving through our needs. But gratification is defining that survival of our wants. Or is making us think we're surviving through our wants. I want that. We say we want something without understanding what we need. And that's a big problem today. We have a lot of people today who put more precedence towards their wants than their needs. Because their needs, there's not as much gratification attached to those things. And that's just what it is. And we can't fuck with it. We're trying to fuck with it, but it's hard. It's really hard. And like I said, it puts us in this compromising position where we need to really just take a kind of a step back and really think about shit for a minute and think like, what is the nature of this thing that we're doing? You know? Sorry guys, I'm just taking a piss quick. The nature of what we're doing is chasing gratification, but in reality, what we need to do is survive. And we understand that. We understand we need to survive, but we understand more so that we need to survive through gratification. And we need a way to either erase that gratification so that we can focus on survival, or we need to reattach that gratification to the new things we need to do to survive. And I don't know how we can do that, but that needs to be done. Reprogramming the brain isn't something that's easy. Teaching someone how to not be a drug addict is almost impossible. Because they've warped their nature. And they're now so engrossed in their wants that their needs have taken such a backseat that we label them as something. It's almost like a class of people. The addict has become like a class of person, almost. Really and truly, that's how many people there are that are addicts. And that it's almost become a class of person. And the addict is defined by the gratification. And as I said, there are so many contentious points of gratification, it's fucking crazy. We can get gratification through staring at our phones, through eating food, through smoking drugs, through doing all this shit not associated with survival. And so it's not really a surprise to see that we have all these crazy things associated with gratification. And as we chase gratification down more and more, we're left with less answers to our needs and more answers to our wants, which is not something we really need. It's something we want. We don't need our wants. We need our needs. But our brain is telling us otherwise. It's fucked up, and it's, like I said, it's putting us at an impasse where we have a hard time modulating that. We have a hard time understanding that our needs are really what we need. And that's fucked up. And how can we cure these people? How can we fix these people? We need to understand that we can't fix our nature. Nature was never meant to be fixed. If you went against your nature, like I said, you fucking died. It's just, it is what it is. And so we're left in this place now where we need to question our nature. And not many people are doing it because when we question our nature, we run the risk of death. Death, in some instances, becomes a need, not a want. Or something we try and get away from. Death becomes... really, gratification is largely a function of death today, rather than survival. Gratification has turned on us, whereas it gave us survival in life and progency for a long time. Now, today, it's giving us death. Gratification is giving us death, and we need to largely abandon it. We need to see gratification for the ruin that it is, and not this function of survival that we think it is. It's fucking crazy. Here I am talking about it, ranting about it, smoking a fucking cigarette, drinking a coffee. Like, how fucking retarded is that? But I'm doing it. And my brain is telling me, Jason, this is fucking stupid. You got coffee here, you got a cigarette, this is fucking stupid. What are you doing? You don't need this shit. Oh, but I want it, so I'm gonna have it. And I understand that. You have evidence, and I understand that. You just listened to me for fucking 36 minutes rant about how I don't need this shit, and yet here I am all the same having it. Like, what the fuck? Like seriously, what the fuck? What the fuck, Jason? What the fuck? And yet here I am, just fulfilling the wants instead of the needs. That's the human condition today. That's what we're fighting against. That's our biggest enemy now, is ourselves. We don't understand that. We still think the enemy is some external influence like the weather or nature or anything like that. It's not. It's us. It's each other. It's not even each other. It's ourselves. It's put us in a real weird spot. A weird spot that we're trying to climb out of right now, and our society at large is holding us back because it's so engrossed in instant gratification. It's so engrossed in just being gratified, senselessly gratified outside of function. Really manipulating our gratification system should be illegal because it's stunting our race. It's stunting our ability to progress. That should really be illegal. but it's not, because so many people are benefiting from it and they don't care. We don't care enough to understand. We understand. We just don't care enough to implement that understanding that gratification is bad. Yeah. So where do we go from here then? I've ranted about this for 36 minutes. Where do we go from here? Where do we go from wanting gratification, but understanding that gratification is largely associated with death? Financially, gratification is really associated with death. We want to gratify ourselves as minimally as possible to amass this sort of nest egg for retirement, right? And we constantly hear these horror stories of people who squander their retirement for these luxuries that they don't really need. They just want. And then they feel stupid after, and they can't survive properly after, and they impair their ability to survive. And the only time they really become privy of it is when they're living the consequences of it. We don't have enough foresight to look at these choices we're making and say, okay, this is going to impair my ability to survive in 20 years. This is going to, if I continually make the habit of making this choice over and over again, it's going to impair my ability to survive. Shit's crazy. It's fucking crazy. But again, do we give a shit? I don't know. It seems like we don't. And why would we? Again, we're chasing what we think is a function of survival or nature. And our biology has yet to catch up to this crazy fucking system that we're now engaged in. And it's a dangerous place. We do not understand as a function of our nature and as a function of our survival. We do not understand how dangerous the time that we're in is right now. We have no idea how dangerous of time we're in right now. We think we're in a time right now of we're surviving the longest we've ever survived, and we have the most technology, and yada 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 yada. We have no foresight into where this fucking shit is leading. We just see where it is. We don't see where it's leading. As I said, we lack a major foresight, and that foresight has to come. We have to look at this thing in a different way. We can't just keep letting this thing run us. We have to take control of this thing. We have to cut the fat. And what's driving this thing is not society itself, it's the people in that society. The instant gratification, it needs to go. We need to have moderation attached with instant gratification, but we have this jaded ego about us that suggests that we don't need to moderate that gratification. When in reality, we definitely fucking do. We definitely do. We definitely don't understand how this is impacting our overall biology. This time right now is redefining our ability, our nature, our everything. It's redefining it. We're in a position right now where we're redefining our nature. Just like we went from a position of not surviving to attaining gratification to survive. Now we're in that process of attaining the next step beyond gratification. What comes after gratification? I don't know. I think intelligence. The ability to reason past gratification. That's what's coming next. And it's coming fast. And more so, we need to accept it. We can't just deny it. We need to accept it. We need to accept that gratification is archaic. That gratification is part of a bygone era now. We're in a new era now. But we're really not, in a way. We're in a state of conflict between our natures. Our nature is at war with itself right now. It's fucking crazy. Like I said, we're in a dangerous time right now. We think we're in a safe time right now. We are in a fucking dangerous time right now in terms of our humanity and our fucking ability to be human beings. Our ability to be human beings has largely been compromised. We don't understand that. Or maybe we do, and we're just so engrossed in gratification that it's all we care about. Anyways, I've ranted about this for a minute now, so I'm just gonna end it here because I don't have anything else to say on it. I don't know what else to say. This is the impasse that we're at. This is where we're at. We don't know where this thing's going right now. You can find me on Twitter at Jason Van Jason. Listen to the beginning if you want to know all that shit. I don't need to reiterate it. I have been in every other video, but it's just a bad habit. I don't need to do that shit. I feel like I need to reiterate that as a function of my survival. I think that that's me being intelligent, but I don't understand that you're intelligent enough to know that, you know? Or maybe you're not. I don't fucking know. I don't want to insult you. But guess what, bitch faggot? You're getting insulted. Find me on Twitter at Jason Van Jason. Go to my Amazon Author Central page. Buy shit. It's in the description below in the video. Go fuck yourself. Woo! This ride, it's flying at 100 miles an hour. I don't give a fuck. Whoop, whoop. Get the fuck out of the way. That is what it is. Anyways, I love all of you. Do not become a slave to gratification. Understand that delayed gratification is a process. And at the end of that process is a reward. Maybe. And if there's no reward, that's even better. Because that means you'll go even longer without getting gratification. And that's a good thing, not a bad thing. Your brain just thinks it's a bad thing. Your brain is getting anxiety because it's saying, oh my God, I haven't been gratified. I haven't been gratified. I'm not surviving. When in reality, you're doing great. You're doing fantastic. But your brain is just not adapted to this world yet. Our children, they're going to need a lot of time to adapt to this world. We think that... We say, oh, we're living longer than ever without realizing that our brains need time to adapt to this place, to work ourselves out of our nature and into our current society. Our brains need time. Our brains are going to need 30, 40 fucking years just to adjust. And we're not accounting for that. We're looking at survival in the greater picture without understanding that the first 30 years are not survival. We're just being birthed into this system. Anyways, I love all of you. Take care. May the devil touch your life. May God bless your life. And may you find a balance between, and may that struggle make you a better person. I love you all. Take care. Good luck with whatever you're doing. Don't just chase gratification. You know the deal. I just spoke on it for a fucking minute. Love you all. Take care. Good luck. Bye-bye.